My parents took my business earnings to remodel their home, so I emptied every account and watched them cry as foreclosure papers arrived. I'm a 26-year-old guy, and I've always been treated like the dreamer of the family, the one with potential that never quite measured up. My brother Paul graduated law school with honors. My sister Lila is finishing up her residency in cardiology. And then there's me, the one who sells gadget junk online, as my dad likes to call it. It started back in my dorm room. Just me, a soldering iron, some circuit boards, and a beat-up laptop running way too hot. I was building custom tech accessories, modded keyboards, RGB docks, limited-run phone mounts. Nerdy stuff, but it sold. People on Reddit, Etsy, Discord, they loved it. Orders trickled in at first. Then they surged. By senior year, I was making more than my campus job ever paid me. But I never told my family that. Not really. Because no matter what I did, I was still the kid who wasted time on YouTube tutorials or played CEO with toy tools. My mom once laughed to her sister on the phone and said, "He'll grow out of it, hopefully, before we run out of space in the garage." I was in the room. I used to bite my tongue, smile through it, keep building. I told myself they didn't understand because they weren't part of this generation, because they didn't see the orders coming in, the PayPal receipts, the nights I worked through till sunrise. I convinced myself that someday they'd see. Someday they'd be proud. But now I know they didn't have to understand it to respect me. They just didn't want to. They saw me as disposable, a backup plan. The soft, sensitive son who was easy to overlook, and that's exactly how they were able to take everything without blinking. They didn't think I'd fight back. They didn't think I could, but they were wrong. Happened almost by accident. I'd just launched a limited-run batch of magnetic charging docks designed to look like retro cassette players. Just a novelty idea I thought only a few nerds like me would appreciate. But then a tech YouTuber found it, made a quick video, called it the coolest damn thing I didn't know I needed. Overnight, my inbox exploded. I got over 2,000 orders in a weekend. I remember staring at my Shopify dashboard like it was a glitch. Then I laughed so hard I nearly cried. 3 years of slowly pushing boulders uphill. And suddenly, the floodgates opened. I reinvested everything. Rented a small warehouse space. Hired 2 remote assistants. Upgraded my tooling. I even got a proper accountant to make sure I was legit. But I told no one. Not my family, not even in passing. Because deep down, I remembered the look on my dad's face when I showed him my first prototype 2 years earlier. He didn't even look up from the newspaper. Just muttered, "Still playing with glue sticks and wires, huh?" That moment stuck like a splinter, so I kept my success private. Let them keep thinking I was some man-child freeloading in the basement. Meanwhile, I quietly paid off the last of my student loans. Opened a second business account. Started saving for my own place. My net worth crossed 6 figures before I turned 25, and yet at dinner, my mom would still say, "You know your cousin Josh got promoted at the bank. Maybe he can help you find a real job." I'd just smile and nod, because what was the point in explaining it to people who only measure value in titles and suits? Let them think I'm the Etsy kid. Let them think I'm struggling. I wasn't hiding the money. I was hiding my peace, and I had no idea how close they were to stealing all of it. It started with a phone call from my mom. Unusual, since we rarely talked unless it was some family event or guilt trip about missing church. Her voice was soft, almost trembling. "Hey, sweetheart. Listen, your dad and I are having some issues with the house. The foundation's starting to crack, and the insurance isn't covering it." I already felt my stomach knot. I knew where this was going. She sighed heavily. "We're getting older, honey. We just need a little help. Maybe a loan? Just for now?" I hesitated. I could have said no. Should have. But it was still my mom. And as much as I tried to pretend I didn't care, part of me was still that kid who just wanted to be seen as good. So I said yes. I wired $15,000 the next morning. No contract. No timeline. Just trust. Family. A week later, I noticed her Facebook page had new photos. Fresh granite countertops. High-end light fixtures. A full living room renovation. "Our dream remodel finally coming true," the caption read. Smiling selfies with dad, paintbrush in hand. Dozens of comments. Heart emojis. Congrats from neighbors, no mention of me, no thanks. No acknowledgement. Just a silent transfer of funds like I was a bank. I tried to let it go. I told myself maybe the repairs and remodel were one and the same. Maybe they were just nesting. Retired boredom. Who knows? But something didn't sit right. So I called her. Hey, just wondering, did you guys fix the foundation too? There was a long pause on the line. Oh, not yet, she finally said. We figured we'd start upstairs first. Upstairs, where the granite and chandeliers were, not underground. Where the problem was, I ended the call with a pit in my chest, and I should have walked away then. But I didn't, because I hadn't seen anything yet. A few months went by. I was swamped with holiday orders, my busiest season yet. I barely had time to breathe, let alone check every account daily. But one morning, while reviewing payouts, something felt off. My business checking account had nearly $30,000 less than it should have. At first, I thought it was a glitch. A payment delay. Maybe a vendor invoice I forgot. But no, it was multiple withdrawals, large ones, spread over weeks. Quiet, calculated. I called the bank in a panic. That's when the woman on the other end said something that stopped me cold. Well, the authorized cosigner on your account approved those transfers. What cosigner? I asked. Your mother. She's listed here as a joint signer. My mouth went dry. I'd added her 2 years ago, briefly, during a vendor dispute when I was overseas and needed someone local to handle a verification issue. I had completely forgotten, and apparently so had she, until she remembered just in time to start bleeding me dry. I called her immediately. My hands were shaking. Mom, why are you taking money from my business account? She didn't even flinch. Because you said you wanted to help. I gave you 15 grand, I snapped. That doesn't mean you can help yourself to everything. Her tone sharpened. You live in our house. You eat our food. You use our electricity. You think that's free? It felt like getting slapped with a cold truth I never agreed to. And anyway, she added, you're doing fine. You're always working. You won't even notice it, but I had noticed. Every dollar meant inventory. Payroll, ad spend. Growth. I wasn't a spoiled kid with a trust fund. I was a business owner, fighting tooth and nail to build something real, and the people I trusted most had just siphoned it like I was some kind of endless resource. They didn't ask, they didn't explain, they just took. And I still hadn't hit the worst part, because they were just getting started. I tried to hold it together. I really did. But the more I thought about it, the more it twisted in my chest. My own mother had stolen from me, and when I confronted her, she acted like I was the problem. I couldn't just let it go, so I told my dad, and instead of outrage or apology, I got silence, then a scoff. You make more than both of us combined, and you're crying over some house money? I remember standing there, phone pressed to my ear, staring out the warehouse window while my employees packed orders like nothing was wrong. I felt like I was floating outside my own life. They didn't feel guilt. They felt entitled. That weekend, they called a family meeting. I showed up hoping, stupidly, that they were ready to admit what they did. Instead, I walked into an ambush. My brother Paul sat with his arms crossed. Lila, my sister, was already tearing up. My mom looked like she'd rehearsed a script. We just want to help you get back on track, she said. Back on track? They called me greedy, selfish, immature. Said I was too focused on money and had forgotten what family means. Paul chimed in about how he works 70-hour weeks and never complains. Lila said I used to be so kind and not like this, not like what? Angry that I got robbed? I realized then, I wasn't just fighting my parents. I was up against the entire narrative they had spun behind my back. To them, I wasn't the victim. I was the disappointment who finally snapped. And worse. They were starting to believe their own lies. They were rewriting my story in front of me, and I hadn't even seen the full betrayal yet. A few days after the family meeting, I stopped by the house to pick up a toolbox I'd left in the garage. I told myself I'd be in and out in 5 minutes. No eye contact, no confrontation. But while walking past Dad's home office, something caught my eye. His desk drawer was slightly open, and a thick envelope was poking out, half sealed, the corner of a document curling up. I wish I hadn't looked. I really do. Curiosity won. Inside were stacks of paperwork, loan agreements, credit checks, title authorizations, and on top, a freshly signed HELOC application, a $70,000 line of credit, secured using my business's EIN. I froze. They'd used my business, my legal entity, as collateral. And the signature? Mine, at least a version of mine, sloppier, angled differently, but close enough to pass. I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. The room spun. My own parents hadn't just stolen money, they'd forged my identity to secure a loan I knew nothing about. I stumbled out of that room, toolbox forgotten, heart pounding so loud I could barely hear anything else. When I got home, I pulled up my LLC filings. My business credit had taken a hit, a hard one. They hadn't just used my name. They'd submitted fake documents, linked my personal information to the home equity line, and now I was legally tied to it. My business wasn't just at risk. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. All I could do was stare at the screen, replaying every time they told me they were proud of me, proud enough to gut me, behind my back, and I still hadn't reached the part where it all came crashing down because someone else had already noticed something was off. 3 days later, I got an email from my bank titled, Urgent, Suspicious Activity Notification Regarding Business Account. At first, I thought it was phishing, but it wasn't. They were flagging inconsistencies in ownership records tied to my LLC. Specifically, conflicting names and mismatched signatures linked to the recent credit activity. One line hit me like a gut punch. Internal review pending. Please contact your business banking officer immediately. I felt sick. I called the bank and got routed to some senior fraud investigator. He spoke slowly, carefully, the way people do when they think you might be dangerous or stupid. Mr. Graham, he said, can you confirm you authorize the use of your business tax ID for a home equity loan on a property not listed under your business assets? I couldn't even answer right away. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. That's when I realized this wasn't just a family mess anymore. This was legal. This was criminal. I was the one under review. I was the one at risk of losing my business license, my payment processor, my reputation. Because 2 people I trusted had forged my name and left me to hold the grenade. I remember sitting on the cold warehouse floor, laptop beside me, my hands gripping my hair so tightly my scalp burned. I'd built everything from scratch. Every sleepless night, every risk, every product launch. And now I was staring at the possibility of losing it all in one email. I called a lawyer that evening. Told him everything. His reply was sharp, no nonsense. You need to cut them off, immediately, and if you're not prepared to press charges, at least start documenting everything. You may not get another chance. I hung up and stared at my family photo on the shelf across the room. It was old, sun-faded. We were all smiling. I suddenly couldn't remember the last time that smile felt real. And still, I wasn't done falling, because what came next would break me entirely. I went back to the house the next day, not to argue, not to beg. Just to set a boundary, I told my parents I was lawyering up, that I had contacted the bank, and there was now an open investigation. I made it clear. They needed to remove themselves from everything tied to my business, or I'd have no choice but to escalate. My mom's face went pale. My dad's turned red. Then came the explosion. You're going to ruin us, my dad shouted, slamming his fist against the dining table. We raised you. We sacrificed for you. And this is how you repay us? Repay them? For what, stealing from me? You think this little business makes you better than us now? He barked, voice shaking with rage. You're still under our roof. That was the final straw. I didn't say a word. I turned, walked upstairs, and packed everything I could fit into a duffel bag and a laundry basket. My laptop, my designs, a hoodie, and my dog-eared warehouse key. My mom followed me up the stairs, crying, no, performing. Grabbing at my arm, whispering, we didn't mean to hurt you, baby. You're just so good at what you do, and we were struggling. I didn't respond. I walked out that door without looking back. That night, I slept on the cold concrete floor of my warehouse, wrapped in a moving blanket I kept for shipments. The hum of the industrial fridge buzzed in the background. I stared at the ceiling, trying not to cry. But it broke through anyway. I wasn't just grieving the theft. Was grieving the parents I thought I had. The illusion was gone. They didn't just ruin my trust. They ruined the version of me that still believed they could change. And as I lay there, aching and alone, I made a decision. If they wanted to see what selfish looked like, they were about to. Grief hardened into resolve. By sunrise, I was already drafting the paperwork. I met with my lawyer that afternoon and began the process of scrubbing my parents from everything. Bank accounts, business licenses, vendor access, even emergency contacts. Anything with their name on it was erased like rot from a foundation. Next, I called the bank and filed a formal fraud report. I submitted all the evidence, screenshots, forged signatures, voice memos, and withdrawal logs. The banker's tone shifted the moment he saw how deep it ran. "They really thought you wouldn't notice," he muttered. I didn't respond. I just nodded. The hardest part? Canceling the HELOC and freezing the loan, because it triggered everything. Their remodel stopped mid-installation. Contractors pulled out, tiles were half laid, plumbing exposed, every payment reversed, every approval voided. I even contacted the city's permit office to revoke the remodeling license under my business name. They weren't just broke, they were stuck in an open wound of drywall and financial chaos. But I wasn't done. I'd kept one card up my sleeve. A formal audit request through my lawyer. It meant every financial move they'd made, every deposit, withdrawal, transfer would now be scrutinized. And since they had illegally linked their home to my business credit, that home was now part of the review. I didn't want revenge that came with yelling or tears. I wanted silence. Paper trails, legal letters that arrived like ghosts in the mailbox. And every morning I walked past their house, unfinished. And hollow, I felt nothing. Not pity, not rage, just clarity. They didn't just underestimate me, they trained me, and now they were about to learn what I'd become. 6 months later, it happened. I was sipping coffee outside my new apartment, small, clean, mine, when I got the notification from a public records alert I'd set months ago. Notice of default filed, parent's address, foreclosure proceedings. I stared at the screen for a full minute before it sunk in. They'd missed multiple payments. Their credit was likely obliterated. The house they fought so hard to renovate, the one they used my money, my business, and my name to bankroll, was officially circling the drain. I didn't celebrate. There was no fist pump. No music swelling in my ears, just quiet, until my phone rang. It was my mom. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Her voice was cracking before she said a word. "Honey, we got a letter. About the house. I don't know what to do. Your father is losing it. They said we have 30 days. We didn't mean for it to get this far. We thought you'd understand." I stayed silent. She kept talking. "Please, just talk to the bank. Or maybe you could cover a few payments until we sort this out. We'll pay you back. We swear." I didn't say anything. I opened my photo app, scrolled to the image I'd taken months ago, the forged loan application. With my fake signature at the bottom, I sent it to her. No words, no context, just truth. She didn't call back. An hour later, I got a text from my dad. "You ungrateful little bastard. You destroyed your own family." And just like that, they proved everything I ever needed to know. They weren't sorry for what they did. They were sorry they couldn't get away with it. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. About 2 weeks after the foreclosure notice, I got a DM on Instagram. It was from Paul, my golden boy brother. The same one who told me I was selfish. The one who rolled his eyes when I mentioned boundaries. The one who told me to stop playing victim. I stared at the message for a minute before opening it. "Can we talk?" "Please," I didn't respond right away. Honestly, I didn't want to. But curiosity got the better of me. We met for coffee a few days later, neutral ground, no expectations. He looked tired. Worn down in a way I'd never seen. Not the polished, high-flying attorney vibe, just a guy carrying weight, and then he dropped the bomb. "Did you know Mom and Dad drained my college fund when I was 17? I blinked. "What?" "Yeah, the one Grandpa set up? They used it to pay off credit card debt. I didn't find out until law school, had to take out 90K in loans. They said it was just a temporary borrowing." I believed them, my jaw clenched. "Why are you telling me this now?" He looked down at his coffee. "Because I thought you were overreacting. I thought you were just being dramatic. But they did the same thing to me. Just wrapped in guilt and sacrifice instead of outright theft." He looked up. "They don't love us. They just use us." That hit harder than any revenge ever could, because it wasn't just me. They'd built a house on our backs and called it parenting. Paul apologized. Sincerely. Not in a performative, "I guess you were right" way, but like someone who finally saw the fire for what it was and realized he'd helped fan the flames. For the first time in years, I didn't feel alone, and for the first time in his life, Paul didn't defend them. We didn't hug, we didn't cry, but we left that coffee shop as brothers again, and something in me shifted. It's been over a year now. I live in a condo I bought myself, modest, quiet, filled with light and peace. No footsteps stomping overhead, no voices whispering behind closed doors. Just me, my dog, and the sound of my own breathing finally settling into stillness. The business? Thriving. I hired a full-time team, bought out a small competitor, launched 2 new product lines. I even got featured in a tech magazine, front cover. My parents didn't mention it, but I know they saw it. Everyone in town did. I've gone full no contact, blocked numbers, returned letters unopened. It wasn't easy. You don't just shut the door on the people who raised you without checking that lock twice. But every time I felt doubt creeping in, I remembered one thing. They knew what they were doing. They didn't steal out of desperation. They stole because they thought I wouldn't fight back. And now? The house sits empty. Foreclosure went through. Bank notices taped to the door. Contractors left their scraps in the yard. A shattered dream abandoned mid-swing. It's a monument now, to entitlement, to control, to what happens when people treat love like a currency to be spent. I don't drive by often, but when I do, I don't slow down. I don't look at the windows or check for signs of life. I just pass it like any other ruin, remembering that once, I almost let myself be buried in it. I still don't tell this story to many people, not because I'm ashamed, but because some scars don't need explanation, they just need air, and now that I've finally stepped into mine, I'm never letting anyone take it from me again, ever.